Good everyone. How are you guys doing? Yeah, I work with you solving this problem. This problem is on pseudocode. It's just a question I try to formulate to give to my students during one of their assessments. Okay. This is a problem solving question. So let's see how to best approach this question so that we can learn from the problem solving skill. Now, a programmer wants to check whether a 2D character grid forms a word square. A word square is an n by n arrangement of letters, where the string formed by the character in row I is identical to the string formed by the characters in column I. For example, for every I as a member of 1 to n, uppercase and lowercase characters are treated the same. That is case insensitive. So like I always tell you guys, it is not compulsory you understand this statement at the first read, and you don't have to waste your time on a description like this. When you see a question like this, you read it the first and the second time and you don't understand, just go to the example. The example will shed more light on what this statement is saying. Okay, so let me read it once again and underline the most important thing. So a programmer wants to check whether a 2D character grid forms a word square. Now, what is a word square? A word square is an n by n arrangement of letters where the string formed by the characters in row I is identical to the string formed by the characters in column I. For I is a member of 1 to n. 1 to n means 1, 2, 3, 4 up to that value. N by n means maybe 5 by 5, 10 by 10, 4 by 4, 3 by 3. Thus means that the word square means the same number of rows is the same number of column. Okay, so uppercases and lowercase characters are what are treated. That means it is case insensitive. So A is equal to A. Okay, now, and don't forget the word square, the 2 grid is a character, and the string formed by the character is equal. So if you still don't understand, don't read for the third time, just go to the example. A sixth example, table 1 is a word square because the character in row I is equal to the character in column I. That is, can go from 1 to 4 because this table 1 is a 4 by 4 2D table. Okay, now if you take a look at this, is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. Okay, so it says column 1 is a word square. This guy is a word square because characters in row I. That is, let's take I to be equal to 1. That is, character in row 1 is equal to the characters in column 1. Let's confirm that. Row 1 is BALL, isn't it? Column 1 is BALL. Are they equal? Yes. Don't forget, we are told to make the smaller case to be equal to the what? To the uppercase, isn't it? The lowercase and the uppercase characters are the same. So that means row 1 is let me use a black pen for that. Row 1 is BALL and column 1 is BALL. So which is the same? Since they are the same, then this is a word square. Okay, so it continues. Row I equals to column I. So for I equals to 1, we've checked for 1, then let's check for 2. For row 2 is AREA for row 2, and the column 2 should be AREA. Okay, now row 3 should be what? LEAD. Then column 3 should be what? LEAD. Then row 4 should be LADY. Column 4 should be LADY. So since all the string formed by the character in each row in the row and column is equal, then this table is the word square. So that is how. So if you take a look at this example, it's very straightforward, unlike this description. The description is not very straightforward, but the example is very straightforward. So that's why I always tell you guys, when you see a question that describes, read it for the first, the second time. If you don't really understand properly, just go to the example and make sure you understand the example. Okay. Now, since we understand that, we have an idea of how to solve the problem, if that is well understood. Now, for the second table, we are told that table 2 is not a word square because the character in row 3 and column 3, let's take a look at row 3. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. So what is the character in row 3? SRAM. This is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. What's the character in column 4? In column 3 rather, SRAW. Can you see? They are not equal. And row 4 and column 4 are not the same. So what is row 4? TNWY. Column 4, TNMY. You can see that those characters are not the same. That means table 2 is not a word square. Table 1 is a word square. Okay, I hope this is well understood. So now that you have understood that, but you are not asked to write any code yet, this is just description. This is just a description and an example. So the next, let's now go to the question. The question says, a function check word square will, that means this is a function, not a procedure, will take a 2D array as a parameter. That means you pass a 2D array as a parameter. Returns true if the array is a word square, otherwise returns false. Write the pseudocode program for a function, for the function check word square. So we are asked to check if that 2D array, that is the values in a 2D array, is what? Is a word square. I hope you guys understand that. Okay, good. Now, so that means we need to understand how to write this pseudocode program to check if it's a word square. Now, if you remember from the description, it says that the row must be equal to column for it to be a word square. That is, the character in the row must be equal to the characters in the column. So the best way to approach this is the characters in each row. Why can't I bring them together to form a string? The characters in each column, bring them together to form a string. Then when you form that string, then you compare each row and each column. That is the string formed by each row and the string formed by their what? By their corresponding columns if they are equal. That is one approach. There are several approaches to answer this problem, but the best way I think I can reason right now is to form a string from the character. What does that mean? That means that from the example I just made, I will just write that row 1 is equal to BALL, row 2 is equal to AREA, row 3 is equal to LEAD, row 4 is equal to LADY. So I formed a string from each row. Then I also form another string from each column. Column 1 is equal to BALL. But while writing BALL, you know, no, row 1 should be B, it should be capital A, isn't it? So don't forget that in the programming language, capital A and small a are not the same. So, but the question asks you that they must be the same. So that means you need your what? Your conversion. So don't forget that. So good. Column 2 should be equal to what? AREA. Column 3 should be equal to LEAD, and column 4 should be equal to LADY. Okay, so after forming in a loop, you form these four what? These strings. Then after forming that, then you can now check if row 1 is equal to column 1, if row 2 is equal to column 2, if row 3 is equal to column 3, if row 4 is equal to column 4. If this occurs, then it's a word square. That is how to plan. If you plan it properly, then you know how to write your code. Now, if you take a look at this, I haven't written the code. I am still planning. Okay, so you should plan within 2 to 3 because this question is 8 marks question. That should be 8 times 1.6. So you have 12 minutes to solve this problem. So in 2 minutes, you should read the question, the description, and the example. Then you have 10 minutes left. In another 4 minutes, you should plan on how to solve. So you use 6 minutes to write your code. That is how you should approach this kind of question. If you're not careful, you will use the whole 12 minutes to write code, cancel, write it again, cancel, and before you know it, the time is over and you are not able to solve any problem. So you use 2 minutes to read the description and the example, 4 minutes to plan, and use the remaining 6 minutes to write your code. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Now I've made my plan. That I need to what? Form a string. So how do I form a string from each row and each column? Okay, how do I form a string? So that means that there are many approaches. It depends on how you want. It depends on you. There are many ways. But first and foremost, we are supposed to do is you can access the elements of what? Of each array, isn't it? So if, let's take for example, the array is declared as letter. If the array is declared as letter, so letter row, if row is what? Is a variable, column. If row is 1 and column is 1, that means you've taken this value, isn't it? If row is 2 and column is 2, that means you've taken row 2, column 2, you've taken this value, isn't it? So since you know how to take the values in a row and column, so you must understand how to access the value in a row and column. Okay, so this is a value in the row and column. So you can now save this value, okay, as what? As a value, maybe row 1 or column 1. It depends on what you are working on. So if you want to take the values in the column, that means the row will be constant. The column will change. What do I mean? What does that mean? You want to take all this column 1, that is, you want to concatenate all the values in column 1, isn't it? So that means it should be row, letter, then row should be what? 1, column should be what? 1. That is B, isn't it? Then letter, row should be what? 1, column should be what? 2. Is that correct? Is that correct? No, that is not correct. That means row 1, column 2. You are taking the values in the row. My aim is to take the values in the column. So that means it should be 2 and 1. That is row 2, column 1. Isn't it? So letter 3, 1 should be what? That should be row 3. So this is row 1, column 1, row 2, column 1, row 3, column 1, isn't it? And the last should be what? Letter, then row 4, column 1, isn't it? So if you take a look at this, structure, this is a for loop. In this for loop, the value of column is constant. The value of row is changing. So with this, I've been able to take the values, to take each value in each row. Is that understood? In one column. If I also write it this way, let me use a red pen to do that. You should have known this before your exam. So this is just like how to approach the problem. Now, letter 1. Okay, I think the way I wrote this is wrong. It should be comma, 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 comma. Okay, good. Then this should be letter 1, comma 1. That means this first value, isn't it? Then letter 1, comma 2 is what value? The same row 1, but column 2. Letter 1, comma 3, row 1, column 3. Then letter 1, comma 4, that is row 1, column 4. So with this iteration, I am able to take each value in the row. With each iteration, I am able to take each value in the column. Then I will concatenate them. Concatenating this gives me what I have planned here. I hope you understand that. So you must understand concatenation very well to approach this. So if you take a look at this, are you supposed to write this one by one? No, this is just a for loop. Just one line of code will solve this problem. So how do we now write this in the for loop? Because if we are able to take each value in the row and each value in the column, then I will go to the next row, next column, next row, next column, next row, next column, and I'm done. When I'm done, then I can what? I can compare. Okay, so how do I now use my for loop? Because if you take a look at this, this is constant, this is changing. This is constant, this is changing. That means it's a for loop. So how do I write the for loop effectively? So that means that I need to write my for loop that for row is equal to 1 to 4. So how to approach this question is very simple. So since we understand that it's a loop, so we write for, because if you take a look at my explanation, both the row, at times the row is constant, at times the column is constant, isn't it? So that means I need the two for loops, one for the row, one for the column. So that will be for row is equal to 1 to 4. Okay, and for column is equal to 1 to 4. Can you say I leave a space before I wrote column? In case there's something to be added before row and column. Because if I don't leave that space and there's something to be added, okay, since it's not my final code, I'm still planning, so I don't have a problem, okay? Now, for row equals to 1 to 4, column equals to 1 to 4, then I write row string. I want to use this to concatenate all the values in the row. So to concatenate, that means row string must have an initial value, maybe an empty string, isn't it? So that will be row string and the name of the array is what? Is letters, then row, comma, column. Okay, so that when row is 1 and column is 1, I will take the first value. Then I need to concatenate the values in the what? In the column as well. Then I call this column string is equal to column string and letters of column row. So let's see how this work before we continue with our code. Now, row string is equal to row string and row. What is the value for row? 1. What is the value for column? 1, because row is 1, column is 1, isn't it? So that means the value of row string is equal to row 1, letters 1, comma 1, and this is the value, isn't it? Which is B. Then column string is equal to column string and letters column 1. What is the value for column? 1. Still in the same code. The value for row is what? 1. So the value for row string is B. Also for column string is now equal to B, isn't it? Now, when you move to the next, it will be the next column, right? The value for the next column will be what? Will be 2. So the value of row is still 1, column is 2. The value of column is now 2, the value of row remains 1, isn't it? So now, let's take a look at that. Since you are concatenating row string, that means you are concatenating the previous row string, which contains a B, with the new value. So what is now letters? 1, comma 2. That means row 1, column 2, A. Column 2, row 1. Are you all following me? Column 2, row 1. The row is still 1. Let me label it to avoid confusion. So this is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column to avoid confusion. So row 1, column 2, row 1, column 2. Then column 2, row 1, column 2, row 1. I think I'm doing the same thing. Let me check again. So I'm not making a mistake. Yeah, I'm correct. It's my explanation that was wrong. The value here is 2. The value here is 1. Why is it 2? Because the value of column is 2. The value of row is 1. Okay? So that means whatever is here is a row. An array is written as array row by column. Is that understood? So the value here is the value of the row. That means row 2, row 2. And this is column 1, which is A. Let me repeat that again. Let me repeat that again. Okay? Let me repeat that again to avoid confusion. Now, let's start again. When we start again, the value of row is 1. The value of column is now 1. Isn't it? That is the first B. Whatever here, whatever at this point is row, whatever at this point is column. That is always written as row, comma, column. The value here is row, the value here is column. It is value. Okay, good. So that is B. Now for the column string is letters, column, row. What is the value for column? 1. The value for row still remains 1. Don't forget the value for here is brought by this column, but don't forget that that value is still the value for row, which is still 1. Is that understood? So that is 1, 1, 1, 1. That is row 1, column 1, which is also 1. Now let's now go to the next column. The next column will be 2, isn't it? If the next column is 2, don't forget that this value for row still remains 1. 2. Then this will be what? 2, 1. So let's analyze that. This is row, comma, column, row, comma, column. Different variables brought the values, but that position is row. This position is column. But the variable that brought this 1 is this variable. The variable that brought this 2 is this variable. Is that understood? So don't mistake the name of the variable and the position of row and column. Some students will make that mistake. Okay, now for the second iteration, I'm concatenating row string which contains B with letters 1, 2. 1 means the first row, which is what? Which is this R1. 2 means the second column, which is capital A. Yeah? 2 means the second column, the second row rather, the second row, because it is row by column. 2 means the second row. 1 means what? The first column, which is this value, A. Is that understood? Then it goes to the value of what? Of the third column. So the value of column 3, not third column, column 3. When the value of column is 3. Is that understood? So don't forget, row still remains what? 1. Column is now 3, 3, 1. Don't forget, these are the variables that brought in the value, but that position is row, and the second position is what? Is column. So that means row 1, column 3, row 1, column 3, L. Row 3, column 1, row 3, column 1, L. Can you see the concatenation? Now it now goes to the next value, which is now column. The value of the next value is column equals to 4, isn't it? That will now be 1, 4, 4, 1. Is that understood? That means row 1, column 4. This was 3. Row 1, column 4, which is L. Then row 4, column 1, which is L. Can you see everything has been concatenated? Then it now goes to row equals to 2. So that means you've concatenated all this and all this. So before you go to the next row, that is the next value of row, is that understood? It's better you compare these two strings because they have been fully concatenated. Is that understood? So let's compare them. Then you now write if row string is equal to column string, okay, if they are equal. Are you following me? Now, then you can set a Boolean variable. So let's say equal. If this a Boolean variable is equal to true, okay, then else equal is equal to false. So instead of saying equal is equal to if else, you can just write return false. Why am I writing return false? If they are not equal at any point, that means it is not a word square. Just end that function. That is what it means. At any point in time, if they are not equal, you don't have to continue the code. End the function. So don't forget that return will end the function, isn't it? So after writing this if else, then you do what? You end the if statement, isn't it? So the end if. After ending if, what is the next thing? So I've ended if in this indentation. Then I go to no, before I do this, yes, before I do this, I need to check this if condition after I am done concatenating according to my explanation, isn't it? Now I've made a mistake there. I need to write what is it called? Next. Yeah, if you are following me, then you understand better. Next column, right? Because I need to use next column to concatenate everything, right? So after concatenation, then I use this if statement to check everything I've concatenated. If they are equal, then set equal to be true, or you don't return true. Because if you return true, it ends the loop, is not yet done with everything, okay? Now, after doing this, then the next thing is now next for. Then I put this in this indentation of next for. Next, next row rather, okay? Next row. I hope this is well understood. That is next row. So let's do this analysis again. So again, let's start again from the beginning. The value of row is 1. The value of column is 1, isn't it? Okay, good. So now I'll be very fast. The value of row is 1, value of column is 1, 1, 1. So that means row 1, column 1 is what? 1, 1 is this value B, isn't it? The value B, and 1, 1 is also the same value B. Next column, the value of column is now what? Is 2. That will be 2, 1, 2, 1, isn't it? So that is row 1, column 2 is A. Row 2, column 1 is A. You must always check after writing your code. Don't forget, because you might have forgotten something. That is the reason I'm checking back. The value of column is now 3, isn't it? That will be 3, 1. So row 1, column 3 is L. Row 3, column 1 is L. Okay, next column, which is now what? Which is now 4. Okay, 4 and 4. That is L, L. And that is the end of the column. After ending the column, I have concatenated the first item, isn't it? The first row and the first column has been concatenated. After doing that, then I check both. Do you know that this is wrong? Why is this wrong? I'm missing something. What am I missing? This and this can never be equal in the programming language. You must convert both to the same case before they can be equal. That is what I have missed. So because I check it back again, then I will quickly know what I have missed. So that means I need to use what? The keyword to upper or to lower for both of them. Then I come back to this line of code and write to upper. To upper, if to upper row string is equal to, you can also use to lower, to upper column string. Now I'm sure that I'm now correct. Is this understood? So whenever you write your code, please check and confirm. Then after doing this, what is the next thing? Next row. Then I go to the next row. What is now the value for the next row? 2. Isn't it? Then let's come back here. What is now the value for column 1? 1. Column is now 1. It will now be set to 1. This will now be row is now 2. Column is now 1. Isn't it? So row is 2, column is 1, column is 1, row is 2. So I'm writing row string is equal to row string and letters 2, 1. What is letters 2, 1? That is second row and first column, which is this A, isn't it? So what was the value for row string? Ball. That means I am concatenating small a with ball, which is wrong. I am only supposed to concatenate the second row only, not with the first row, which is wrong. So that means after this concatenation and checking, before you start again, you need to set you need to set row string. You need to set row string to be an empty value. Row string to be what? To be an empty value. And column string to be an empty value. So that by the time it's starting again, it sets row string to be what? To be empty. Column string to be what? To be empty. That was the mistake some of my students made in this test. No, just one of them made this mistake. Forgot to set it to be empty in this for loop. He actually set to be empty outside of the for loop. And if you do that outside of the for loop, it will still concatenate with the previous value. I hope this is well understood. Okay, good. Since this is understood, now the value of row, don't forget, is now 2. Value of column is now what? 1. Isn't it? So 1, 2. Okay, now row string is now what? Row 2, column 1, which is A, isn't it? Then column string is now what? Column 1, row 2, the same A. Is that understood? The same A, column 1, row 2. Now, next column. The value of column is now what? Is now 2. Will now be 2. Now, don't forget the value of row does not change. I hope you understand. Now, row 2, column 2. Row 2, column 2 would be what? Would be R. A-R-E-A. A-R-E-A. Okay, good. Row 2, column 2 is R. Then row 2, column 2 again is the same R. Okay, now the next column, the value of column is now 3, 3. Row 2, column 3, the same row 2, column 3 is E. Yeah, row 3, column 2 is E. Now the value for next column will now be what? 4. I hope you understand that. Row 2, column 4 is A. Then row 4, column 2 is what? Is A. Can you see that? It compares. When it's done, it goes to the next row and it continues everything. Then this is the code you are looking for. I hope this is well understood. So after you have planned this and you are sure that this is going to work for you, then you can now, you must have written this in the rough sheet. Okay, then you can now transfer it neatly to your answer space. Everything I did must be done in just 4 to 5 minutes. In just 4 to 5 minutes. The reason why it took a lot of time was because I was explaining. So if you're actually not explaining, you shouldn't take this much time. Okay, so let's now write our code. Now that we have gotten the structure of how the code must be written. So let's now come back here to write the pseudocode program for what? For the function. So how do you write that? Then you go down here and write function. Then I write function check word square. Then you pass the array as a parameter, isn't it? You pass the 2D array as a parameter, letters, then array. Then you specify what? The number of rows. Don't forget n by n makes equal number of rows with equal number of what? Column. If you like, write 1 to 4, 1 to 10, whatever. Just make sure the number of rows is equal to the number of column. So let me write 1 to 10, comma, 1 to 10. Okay, of what? Character. Okay, then after writing that, what's the next thing? Returns. Returns, not return boolean, because I'm going to return a true or false, isn't it? Then after writing the function, then you declare your variables. Don't forget the number of variables I use here. I use row, column. Row and column are integer. Row string and column string are what? They are strings, isn't it? Okay, good. Then I also have equal to be a boolean. Then I declare in the function, declare row and column They are both integers. Declare Boolean, declare equal as Boolean. Equal Boolean. And declare that is row string, and what? Column string. Both has been declared as what? As strings. There, don't mind this space. So for your own exam, you have more space to write. Okay. Okay, good. After this declaration, then I can go straight to the for loop immediately. So since I have it here, I don't have to. I have it in the. I'll just start writing it, isn't it? Okay, good. Then it won't take me 1 minute to write. For row is equal to 1. Do you know this is wrong? Because I declared the size of the array as what? As 10 and not 4. So I shouldn't write 4. I should write 1 to 10 for what I have declared the array, isn't it? So don't forget your row string. Row string should be equal to empty column string should also be equal to empty. Okay. Now after doing this, then for column, okay, for column is equal to 1 to 10. Then I start concatenating, isn't it? That row string is equal to row string and letters row comma column, and column string is equal to column string and letters of column comma row. Now can you start? It's easy for me to write. I'm not thinking while writing, I'm just writing because it has been planned, isn't it? And the next is next column. Then you continue writing. After writing all this, then you write your next row. Okay. So now that I've copied your code, is this all? No, this is not all. Don't forget that you haven't returned the true. You only return the false to end the function if any of the string is not equal. So what if everything is equal after all the loops? That means it is a word square, isn't it? You need to return true. So after you are done, so you don't have to check anything, just return true. Sorry, return equal rather. Return equal. Because if at any point in the loop, if there's any point where the row and equal the row and column is not equal, it will have returned this first and end the function. So for it to have one loop iterate through all the loop, both the row and column loop, since it has iterated everything and it did not return false, that means the value of equal is still true. Then you return true or return equal, which is right. After doing that, that is the end, because the question says either return true or return false. What is the next thing? Then you end the function. Don't forget, this is very important. End the function. And this is what? This is 8 marks for 12 minutes. So if I'm not explaining to you, I will have solved this question in 10 minutes, okay? Because of my explanation and my analysis, my illustration made this video as long as this. So you shouldn't spend more than 10 minutes on this question if you actually planned it very well. The rule is 2 minutes to read the question and the example to understand properly. Let's say 5 minutes to analyze how you should do it, or let's say 4 minutes to analyze how you should do it. After analyzing this in 4 minutes, you have 6 minutes left. In the remaining 6 minutes, you can spend 4 minutes to plan your code and just 1 minute to just copy it out. This should not even be up to 1 minute to copy it out. Then your code will be neat. It prevents you from making mistakes and unnecessary errors. I hope this is well understood. If you have any question, don't forget to message me on the comment section, to write it on the comment section. Thank you.